Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fins Forecast. It is unfortunately one of the most disappointing ends to the Miami Dolphins season that we've seen, well, I guess since last year. The Dolphins fall to the New York Jets 32-20. Way to get out there and fight them, guys. Way to finish the season strong with a winning record and fight for your coach and all that. You know what? I better stop before I say everything before we even get to the rest of
And
it.
that's the show, ladies and gentlemen.
That's everything. But yeah, we have plenty to talk about today, and it's not going to be happy. All right, boys, here we are at the end of another disappointing season of Miami Dolphins football. The big difference this year, it's the first season that Mike McDaniel has not made the playoffs. We came into this game with the understanding that we needed the Broncos to lose to even stand a chance for ourselves to get in. They did not, spoiler alert, they destroyed the Chiefs' backups.
Not even close.
Was it 38-0? Is that what it was?
Something like that.
I think it was 38-0.
Yeah, 30-something to zeros. Let's say 38-0.
Jesus.
So even before our game ended, because their game ended first, I think they started at 4:05. We started at 4:25. We knew that we weren't getting in the playoffs. But at the very least, you hope to take down a Jets organization that for the better part of my and your guys' entire life has been a disaster.
Yep, pretty much. Yep.
And we couldn't even do that. Done, Gerard Mayo. You guys know how I feel about one and dones. I don't think it's right. I think it's one of the biggest BS moves you can make as an organization in football to give a guy one season and then cut him before you even give him a chance to build his team. We are not facing that same situation in Miami. We have had 3 seasons of Mike McDaniel. 3 seasons of first season was mostly good, and then we lost to it. The second season we had 2 of the whole year, and it was good other than the fact that we couldn't beat a winning team. And now the third season, which was never good, we lost to it again for a concussion in the beginning of the season and then for a broken hip or something in the end of the season. And here we are. We played, I think, 11 games. Pretty much what we get with Tua. The 17-game season was the outlier, not the norm. And now we have so many decisions to make as an organization, for Ross to make, for the leadership team, because I know it's not just Ross. He doesn't have full ownership. I mean, he's the majority owner, but there are partners in this thing that he has to make decisions with. I mean, let me stop rambling for a second. Go to you, Josh. Like, it's as disappointed as I've been in a bit.
Yeah, it's real tough to come on the show. I mean, look, it's not tough to come on the show. I love doing the show with you fellas. I love doing the show for our fans. But I'll be honest with you. Right now, I'm not in a good spot. All COVID aside, it's. I'll put it to you this way: I don't know what was worse, dealing with COVID for the first time or this game. And that should tell you a lot. I think. Mike McDaniel showed that he needs to really go back to the drawing board, and it very well could be with another team. That's kind of where I'm at with him right now. Chris Greer, I think there needs to be some accountability across the board, both from player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from an ownership standpoint. I mean, all the way down, right? Naturally, there are some silver linings to everything, right? So we will talk about some good things that happened in this game. We will talk about some players that did very, very well. And we will talk about some, silver linings to the outcome of the season and where we're at from a draft standpoint, from a true kind of reflective mirror look at how we are as a team. And we know there are very clear issues that we can address and we can turn this thing around. We don't have to blow this whole thing up. But yeah, it's not in a good spot right now, buddy.
Taylor, your first time joining us for a reaction show. How you feeling today?
I'm not feeling too great. Just going to quickly get this out here. Anthony, at the beginning of that, you were kind of cutting in and out a little bit, but I think we all got the gist of the message, and that is that the Dolphins sucked against the New York Jets here today. I think what got me so much is this was, and Dolphin fans will laugh when they hear this, a prime opportunity for this team. And even with the playoffs out of reach, you still were going into a cold, harsh environment away. You had to win a game, you have a winning record, you go into the offseason with some momentum, you have something to prove for this organization. McDaniel could have came in tomorrow and been like, hey, you know what? I had another winning season. I went 9-8. I went into Meadowlands. Yeah, it was the Jets, but it was also possibly Aaron Rodgers' last game, and we beat him. Instead, we're looking here at 8 o'clock now, and going, well, Dolphins just didn't really show up.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the only silver lining to me, obviously, to Josh's point, is that we moved up 2 spots in the draft because of this loss. I mean, I guess that's good. If we had won, we would be at, I believe, 17 or 18, where Cincinnati is. We were at 15 before this week, and now we're up to 13 officially. We're drafting 13th overall.
Which is going to be great for the offseason content, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there will be plenty to talk about then. The biggest elephant in the room is, what do they do? What do they do to get over the hump? I think, Josh, you sent us a clip from the Mina Kimes show, which I love Mina Kimes.
Yeah, me too.
But whoever her guest was is a Dolphins person. And he said that McDaniel needs to find his big boy offense. Because right now, it's just amateur season. And this is things we've said on the show a million times. Nobody is falling for it anymore. And nobody has all season. Instead of adjusting and making a change, the running game coordinator that we got from the San Francisco 49ers couldn't find a way to run the ball. He couldn't find a way to simplify the offense to just make things work better and easier and bring guys in so that they could quickly get up to speed. We had a lot of injuries. We needed to bring guys in. They needed to get up to speed quickly, but we couldn't even simplify the offense enough to do that. And it just turns out to be mayhem. And I'm not a guy who likes to call out coaches for bad play calling, because there is so much happening on the field that we cannot know, right? They'll never share it with us. And unless we were in the room when they're planning these calls, we'll have no idea. But what we can see is analysis from other people, our own analysis on how, the circus isn't working anymore, right? Like, you came in as this young guy, you talk differently, you have all the hype in the world, everybody loves you, right? You and Rich Eisen are clapping hands because you got all of your you did a
I remember
conference,
that.
right?
Yeah.
You did a press conference in the offseason, and he got all the coach speak in one press conference. So him and Rich Eisen having that's all fantastic. But NFL, everybody says, because it's true, stands for not for long. If you do not adjust consistently, if you do not keep up with what other teams are going to do to stop you, then you end up gone, right? Andy Reid has not had the same offense nor the same coordinator his entire tenure, yet he has how many Super Bowls at this point?
Yeah.
It's just because they change with the times, right? I mean, he went from Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. I can't think of 2 more different quarterbacks.
Now, it does help that you get probably one of the generational quarterbacks that come out every multiple decades, right? But I do think that Andy Reid is a perfect example of what you're trying to articulate, Anthony, right? It's, you have a head coach in Andy Reid, not Anthony Reid, sorry, in Andy Reid, who, for all of the Super Bowls, for all of the coach awards and all of the accolades that his staff and his team have accumulated over the years, he is not stubborn. He is not afraid to admit, okay, what I am doing is not working. I have a backup plan and I'm going to go to it. I am not going to continuously run 3 screens in a row. I'm not going to continuously run the ball up the gut when we don't have any offensive guards and we don't have a power back on 4th and 1. I'm not going to continuously call challenges when I suck at it. He doesn't do those things, or he delegates to other people to do those things. And that is something that myself, you, Taylor, I'm sure you and I have talked about it too. Keith has said it when he was, when this came up multiple times on other shows. Mike McDaniel is stubborn. He believes in his system, which is a good thing, but there's a difference between believing in your system and having stubborn belief in your system. You can believe in your system. It is a good system if you run it right. But if you're stubborn and you don't move off of it, you're stuck with what we just witnessed all season.
Yeah. It's a lack of being able to adapt.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's so annoying. And whenever you look at the last 2 seasons, and this isn't, and I don't think you guys are this either. Like, this isn't McDaniel's always been bad and this team's always been bad kind of thing. This is you have a lot of positives to your game as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all 3 can agree to that.
Yeah.
But when you cannot adapt to these situations, when you cannot play situational football, that's where I think my comparison would be like less Andy Reid and more so like, okay, you're doing a lot of things well, but you're not doing the basics well. You're just the Justin Fields of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's just true.
Yeah, exactly.
And listen, I bring up Andy Reid mainly because it's the most recent example of, like, yes, he has a generational talent at quarterback, but the last 2 seasons he hasn't used that generational talent as much as he did the first few seasons, right? Last year they rode Pacheco to a championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this year they lost Pacheco, so do they go back to Mahomes? No, they bring Kareem Hunt back and they ride Kareem Hunt to a championship. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round, who, for all intents and purposes, was an absolute bust. Did that slow them down? No. Like, the adjustments there are just so much better, and that's why they keep winning. And if we want to use a more recent example, how about Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers?
Yeah, what a turnaround.
I mean, they're in the playoffs a year removed from having a top 10 pick.
Yeah, or look at Denver with Bo Nix, right? Here's a perfect example. Quick shout out to Nickel City Mafia and to Matt for joining us again. Really glad to see you guys.
Listen, the one and done thing, I'll never understand it. Just why hire him in the first place? I don't get it.
Well, because Belichick.
True.
Belichick wanted him, and they kind of felt.
And now they're going after Vrabel. They're just going to go down Belichick's.
Yeah, they're just going to keep going through it.
We have lots of draft hope, Matt. I mean, we were going to get into the draft a ton throughout the offseason here. I think this show today will just be kind of reacting to the nonsense we saw today, to the season as a whole, as little as we can, because I'm sure next week we'll do, or even Wednesday we'll do a proper season in review, or maybe next week we'll do a season in review. But all right, so let's get into. I mean, we're about halfway through the show already. We haven't really talked details about this game.
There's not much to get into, to be fair. This team just laid an egg. There's only so many ways you could be like, oh, this person missed the block. Huntley missed this pass. Waddle dropped the pass. There's not a whole lot to really dive into, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, typically we do run through a quarter-by-quarter breakdown. I don't really know that it's necessary today because we just have so much venting to do. And there wasn't anything to talk about until the third quarter, I would say. End of the second and then start of the third when somebody finally scored a touchdown. Dolphins had an opportunity to go up 2 touchdowns, by the way, and kick field goals on both of those opportunities. Absolutely atrocious. Put in the defense. Watch the second half of the game, you're probably thinking to yourself, the defense was awful. That is not true. The defense was fantastic, but they were on the field far too long because the offense was inept. And the defense put us in position to go up by 3 scores at one point, and our offense could not get it done. They could not score a touchdown. I mean, Jason Sanders was like, okay, I guess I'll go kick this field goal. What's the point, right? So we're up 6-0 early. Then the Jets take a 7-0 lead, and then the Jets take a what is it? 15-6 lead?
15-6 going into halftime,
15-6 going into half. We almost scored right before the half. Malik Washington with an absolutely amazing kick return to put us in scoring position right before the half, and the offense goes backwards. So, hey, there we go. Tyler Huntley led offense. That's what we get. Second half was a lot of the same. It was absolutely the same. It was our offense going backwards for the most part until they absolutely had to score because the Jets were just up too much for us to catch them. And then it seemed like anytime we scored, the Jets scored, and it went tit for tat until the end of the game and ended up 32-20. Aaron Rodgers, last time we played, and I know you weren't here, but last time we played the Jets, we said that Aaron Rodgers looked like prime Aaron Rodgers, or we made him look like prime Aaron Rodgers. He threw 4 touchdown passes today.
Yeah, we did it again.
So, we did it again, yeah. Breece Hall, okay, but Isaiah Davis ran us over yet again. Breece did have the one big play.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Breece had a long of 17, and Davis had a long of 20.
Yeah.
But no touchdowns by running backs, which I think was a big win for the defense, given I think Breece Hall's a top back in this league. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been playing like it this season, but I certainly think he's talented, yeah. So, all right. We lose 32-20. The Dolphins season is over. We finished 8-9. We're sub 500. It's disappointing. Let's get initial final thoughts on this game and initial final thoughts on the season. And then because I feel like our game balls and jockstraps, we're going to talk quite a bit about the specific players that deserve talking about. And we'll probably go pretty long on that. So, Taylor, why don't you just give me your final thoughts on itself and then the season itself?
Final thoughts on this game here. I think, like you said, the defense, for the most part, played good enough to win this game. When you also, the one thing I will say is we kind of figured, we talked here Wednesday about, hey, what are the Jets going to look like? Hey, this could possibly be Aaron Rodgers' last game. Yep. So maybe expect a pass-heavy offense. And that's exactly what we saw. But it kind of feels, even though they played pretty well, like we weren't really expecting that, because we had Storm Duck out there, who I know a lot of people are fans of Storm Duck, but he's an undrafted free agent rookie starting opposite of Jalen Ramsey, and it really showed.
I mean, who else were we going to put out, though, honestly? We're decimated by injury at the cornerback position.
And that's a longer conversation we could have about Chris Greer drafting somebody like Cam Smith, and where's Cam Smith been all season? I know injuries and all that.
Is he on IR? Is that right?
Who the heck? He's on a milk carton somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's on IR yet again. Yeah.
Ethan Bonner, preseason hero,
man crush.
Didn't play. I don't even think he played a down this season, which is very surprising.
Yeah, I think last week was his first. Yeah, we blew up in the chat because we were like, oh my god, Bonner signing. Exciting.
Oh man, that's actually, I'm happy about that. He finally got on the field. So defense, like, while they played well, there were still some flaws there. Offensively, we don't have the time. We seriously don't have the time to get into the issues. From the offensive line, I saw that reaction. From the offensive line to why do we have 2 prime wide receivers getting paid so much money? To how many catches did they both have?
Waddle had 4, Hill had 2. And they combined, so they had 6 receptions between the 2 of them, and they had 64 yards total.
That's unacceptable. And that's something that's been happening all season. And I know Jonnu Smith stepped up, Malik Washington stepped up, Devon Achane stepped up.
River Craycraft stepped up. Yep.
River Craycraft was present, and he got a catch.
He got 4 of them.
He got a few of them. He made up for not really doing anything all season. But the thing is Tyreek Hill and Waddle both not having anything to really do all season. That's something that comes down to coaching. The offensive line being as bad as it has been all season, for the most part, it's just too long of a conversation to really have. And honestly, Huntley, while he had a bad game, I think we can also agree on that. I think he's at the low end of the list when it comes to the problems with this offense today.
I'm putting him at the top.
I think he's
for a later segment.
Yeah, I think he's one of the issues, right? But the problem, to your point, Taylor, is that there are so many issues on offense, right? I mean, just across the board. You have, I don't want to repeat everything you just said because I think you hit the nail on the head, but you have two insanely high paid wide receivers that are doing absolutely nothing. One of which I'm still a big fan of, one of which I want absolutely gone out the door. I don't care. I'll take a bag of chips and a public Subway sub or a public sub with some chicken tenders or something. Like, I don't
God,
care.
that sounds good though.
Right?
Right about now.
You have Devon Achane, who is an absolute stud. I am not. This is not a knock on Achane, but he's not a power back. We need a power back. I was a big Jalen Wright fan. I'm not saying that he's washed already as a rookie. I think, we need an offensive line, fine, but we need to bring somebody in, whether it be via the draft or whether it be in free agency. We need to bring in it. Let me put it this way. If this season showed me anything, it's we need a power back and a very productive power back, kind of the thunder to Achane's lightning, if you will, to use a crappy analogy. And we need a Jalen Reed / T. Higgins type wide receiver for this offense. We need some other dimension to this offense other than small and fast, right? Because I am sick and tired of seeing 4th and 1, 3rd and 3, whatever it is, little fades to Tyreek Hill. I'm sorry, Tyreek Hill's not a fade guy. Like, you need a 50-50, a guy that can go up and get those 50-50 balls on those kind of plays, and we don't have one. Jonnu Smith did a very good job this season. I think he deserves a contract extension, and I don't think there's a conversation that should be had. Pay the man whatever he wants. He is our offense, right? But we need to stop being, and sorry for all of you fans that have watched all of our shows. I know I've said this a lot, but we need to stop being a Ferrari in a snowstorm, and we need to put some chains on the tires. We need to maybe, turn it into a snowcat, do something, right? Play more physical. We need, there you go. Matt, you took the words right out of my mouth. All right. We need to play some physical football. We do. We need to stop with the flashy, unnecessary, fancy crap. And we just need to put your players on the line, call a play, and go play football. And we got away from that a lot this season, whether that's Mike McDaniel trying to over-engineer something that doesn't need to be over-engineered. I kept looking at this offense as a whole throughout the season, and Anthony, you and I talked about this a lot, and looking at last year and not being able to really compute what happened this year. We were the number 2 ranked offense in the league last year. We are the number 28th this year. How the hell does that happen? We have the same players. We have the same players on this team, except we have crappy backups. Okay, cool. But what happens? This is a Mike McDaniel problem. This is and a player problem, but the buck stops with the head coach.
Yeah. I mean, listen, sports in general, the winner always has balance, and we have no balance. Whether it's the offense is playing really well and the defense is crap, or the defense is playing well or really the offense is crap, or we can throw the ball but we can't run it. We can run the ball but we can't throw it. We have never had balance. I can't remember a time where we put a balanced product out on the football field. And it's so frustrating. And I know all you Dolphins fans out there are with us, right? All of you who are here have probably been fans for decades at this point because we haven't won in decades. So if you are still a fan of this team, you get all my love and support and all of our love and support because it is an aggravating team to be a fan of. Mm-hmm. And we voluntarily go through the aggravation every single year. So who's really the crazy ones? I guess it's us.
That's funny.
All right, I have a quick question for you guys. I want a quick answer because we are definitely going to dive into this in the other show. So I just want your feelings now so we can come back to this in a couple of weeks and see if you still feel the same way. Okay, Josh, Greer, stay or go?
Go.
Daniel, stay or go?
Go.
Go. Oh, sorry.
What do you think about Greer? Should he stay or go?
He should go.
What do you think about McDaniel?
Yeah, I think he should go. That's a tough thing, man. It really is, but
yeah, and I said that very quickly. That is not a light and easy decision to make, but I think this season was it for me. And I'm a Mike McDaniel guy. This season was it for me.
Right there with you. I'm a huge Mike McDaniel guy, and I believe that one day he'll be a fantastic head coach.
Yeah, we
But
said it on the show, Taylor. Like Mike McDaniel's going to succeed wherever he goes next. He's a second team kind of coach, right?
And I don't want to like jump ahead and be like, okay, let's look at a season in review and why we completely feel this way. But for me, just to like, and I think you're a little similar, Josh, to where if McDaniel stays, Tua stays.
Mhm.
They are joined at the hip. We are locked into this, and we're going that way. We are entering an off season that is a fork in the road. That will determine how our franchise will be for the next 3 seasons.
Mhm.
Whether that means Tua stays, whether it means McDaniel stays, Greer, I would assume, is gone. But even then, it's a thing where that's a lot of money going to that QB position. That's a lot of money going to the wide receiver positions. And you have to do a roster overhaul with that. Are you going to buy into McDaniel's scheme and continue doing this? Or is it best just to rip the Band-Aid off and do a complete rebuild yet again in an offseason that is admittedly, from what a lot of people have said, lacking in QB talent in the draft compared to other years, which would be to me a prime year to be like, okay, let's rip the Band-Aid off, start a rebuild, and start in the trenches, and then go get a quarterback the following season.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of weeks to talk about that. But
yes,
I didn't want to agree.
Yeah, I didn't want to fully get into it.
I've been for the better part of the past 3 weeks. I think about 3 weeks ago, I came to the conclusion that I was done with these two, and that comes from me just as a fan. I think it's kind of like a growth that I've been trying to do as a fan. I have spent the better part of 30 years attaching myself to whoever the new regime is and supporting them through thick and thin and arguing with people that no, they just need one more game, and I am trying to be more objective in my analysis. And we have spent 3 years. McDaniel's record. I'm only saying this, Justin. I know it's going to annoy you, but I'm saying it because I know fans are looking at it this way. McDaniel's record is only 4 games better than Flores's, right?
Yeah.
And I know that is not apples to apples, as most fans want it to be. But the reality is, it's the truth. 24 and 25. McDaniel's 28 and 25. Or so he's 3 games better. I am just don't see where the growth was, where the improvement was that I'm supposed to hang my hat on. All I saw was a stubborn man who thinks he's a genius, consistently trying to get his scheme to work where he didn't have any of the right puzzle pieces to make it happen. And that's not a winner. Sorry, it's not a winner. And we haven't had a winner here in such a long time, and I'm just so desperate for it. And listen, I'm not even a fan of any of these guys really who are coaching candidates right now. But like, you got to keep trying until you get it, right? And that's just where I'm at this point.
Yeah, and there are a couple good. There are some candidates I would be genuinely excited about, like the guy from Detroit. Is it Ben Johnson? Is that his name?
Ben Johnson, yeah.
Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Or the guy from Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't know his name.
I can't remember his name, but there have been a
bunch
bunch
of defense coordinator, right?
I think so.
Brian Flores?
No, not Brian Flores. I think it's their head coach. There are a lot of reports saying that teams are seriously considering trading for the head coach.
O'Connell?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, but then at that point, you're trading assets that you need because this roster is so top heavy.
Yeah, but you're also. I mean, look, if I told you had to trade a 3rd round pick to get a head coach that's going to be your head coach for the next decade, not saying that he will, half a decade. You're telling me that's not worth a 3rd round pick
for a 3rd round pick? Yeah,
the only time it's ever happened before they traded the 1st. Yeah, I don't think they would do it for a 3rd.
Yeah.
All right, but that's something. I mean, that's a very good topic that we can bring up in the next show. Is just if we did get rid of these guys, who would it be? I haven't seen any news come across the ticker yet that we've fired anybody.
No, we haven't. So
as of right now, we still have McDaniel and Greer. So it's time for us to get into one of our favorite segments, although maybe it will be a little bitter today, but that's okay. It's time for Game Balls and Jockstraps. Yeah. All right. So game balls and jock straps. Josh, we're going to start with you. And for those of you who are new to this segment, our game balls go to players who we thought were solid contributors to the game today. Our jock straps go to players who we thought were solid contributors to the other team today. So, Josh, we'll start with you. Who is your game ball for today?
Yeah, I mean, my game ball goes to a player that I genuinely believe should be, and there can be arguments made, right? But should be the defensive MVP of this team for the season, and that goes to Mr. Zach Sealer himself. I think he has been revolutionary. He has, at every level of his play, at every point of his craft, he's gotten better from last year to this year. It has been, it has been a breath of fresh air on an admittedly very frustrating season. I mean, in this game alone, he had 6 total tackles, 4 solo, sack and a half, tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. I mean, just across the board, he's been, he's been our kind of steadying force, along with a few others, for the entire season. Hasn't missed. I don't think he's missed a game. I think he's played every game this year. Might have missed
the one for the orbital fracture when he got poked in the eye. Yeah,
at practice by one of us. Yep. Great. That should be the epitome of the season right there, fellas.
And he missed 2 games from that, and we were awful on defense in those 2 games.
And you could tell. I mean, and that's a really good point, Anthony. You could really tell. And I know this is game balls for this specific game, and I'm not talking about the whole season with Zach Sealer on purpose, but you could really tell the impact that he had when he was out versus when he came back. And in this game, he was all over the place. He was kind of the silver lining to some questionable things that happened in this game. And I'm really glad that he's on our team. I think he's on an insane, probably one of the most team-friendly contracts versus player output in the entire league right now. When you see what we're paying him versus what he does for this team, especially now that he can shine with Christian Wilkins kind of going to Vegas. But yeah, he gets my game ball.
Perfect. Taylor, I'm going to actually go next because I'm the guy right alongside Sealer here, and I'm Calais Campbell. I feel like I need to give Calais a shout-out. It's his final game as a Dolphin. In all likelihood, he will be released after the game today so he can go sign with a contender. Yeah. They were emotional on the sideline, him and Anthony Weaver. They hugged it out. They were emotional. This is probably Calais' last year, if I had to guess, 38 years old. You don't see a lot of 39-year-old defensive tackles, for that matter. You don't see a lot of 38-year-old defensive tackles, so maybe he will come back.
He could probably go 3-4 more seasons the way he plays. So.
Probably good, but imagine the toll it takes on their body. I don't think he will. I think it's his last season. He had a sack. He had a tackle for a loss. He had 3 tackles. Him and Sealer were absolutely the shining stars of our defense in this one. Fantastic game for them. And I just want to give him a really big shout out. I know you'll never watch this, Calais, but you have been an absolute joy to watch this season. So thank you for joining us for 1 year and giving us your absolute best through the final snap there.
I mean, I don't mean to wax poetic here, but like really inspirational. I mean, like when you see his level of play at his age.
That sounded sarcastic. I don't know why.
No, yeah, maybe it did, but I promise y'all I did not mean it that way. Truly inspirational when you see his level of play and his level of professionalism and just his, on and off the field and how he took players and kept and got people hyped and coached when needed and kept people engaged. It was nice. It was nice to have that on our team.
Absolutely. All right, Taylor, over to you. Who was your game ball for today?
My game ball goes to Devon Achane. Devon Achane, Malik Washington, and Jonnu Smith were by far the best offensive players we had on the field today. Achane had 11 rushes, 121 yards. The longest run was a 61-yarder that, man, I wish he got an end zone for. Because as soon as he got tackled, I was like, oh, we're not scoring this touchdown. Lo and behold, kicking 3. And he eventually got on the board with a touchdown later in the game. This guy, I think it was you, Josh, who said it, like, he's not a power back, yeah. He's not somebody I necessarily want running in between the tackles. But I want him getting the ball. Mm-hmm. And, man, I hope next season we find a way to get him the ball at running back and I would love to see him play more wide receiver because I think he could be an amazing wide receiver as well.
Well, he did it last year, and he did it at the beginning of this season. They would put him in the slot, and he would tear people up.
He did at Texas A&M. Like
Yep.
that was kind of like that hybrid role there, and
Mhm.
that's kind of why I envisioned what he would be with us.
Mhm.
And I guess because of circumstances, he kind of had to become our RB1. But next season, I'm kind of hoping, whether it be Jalen Wright or somebody else, we end up letting Devon Achane just be this weapon.
Mhm.
Like, not a running back, not a wide receiver, just a weapon who gets touches.
And I
Because
hate to
dude,
make this comparison. I really do, and I'm so sorry for this. But use him like San Francisco uses Debo.
okay.
They're not the same player. I'm not saying they're the same player, but you know how San Francisco lines him up in the backfield, puts him out
Yeah.
wide, puts him in slot, puts him on the like. Use them in that same kind of in that same vein.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, I thought you were going to say Taysom Hill. So I'm glad you didn't say that.
I got to say, I mean, his 61-yard run came between the tackles today, so I'd like to get him the ball as much as we possibly can. It was, at least this year, he was our entire offense.
He really was. So, yeah.
The great game ball there. And you mentioned Jonnu Smith and Malik Washington. They get honorable mentions today. They both had fantastic games. Jonnu broke the touchdown record, I believe, for the Miami Dolphins, so great job by him. He had previously broken the yards record.
And the receptions.
And the receptions record. So now he has all three.
All of them, across the board.
So when you face that in Jeopardy 5 or 10 years from now, just remember it was Jonnu Smith.
Remember, we said it here first. No.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with you, Taylor, for your jock straps.
This is an audible, actually, because of our very, very brief pre-show meeting because we were rushing to get the show live. I'm going to go with the safety room between Javon Holland and Jordan Poyer. This room, Josh, you have said it before, and you know what? I'm an open door. Let you say it again. This room is trash. Like
hot garbage.
Trash.
Hot garbage.
This secondary is arguably trash. The safety room is at the top, very clearly at the top. Holland had an amazing week 1. He had that awesome knockout with against Trevor. Is it Travis Etienne? I think it's Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
For the Jaguars. Trevor plays for Georgia. But he got that knockout. Everybody was like, "Oh man, we got to pay him. We got to pay him." And he has had, in my opinion, just a bad year for somebody who was in a contract season, wanting a big contract.
Nailed it.
I can't justify it, man. If it's something to where I don't even know, honestly, if I'd want him on a cheaper deal, just because I just want to reset at the position. I really,
especially in this draft. Now's the time to reset. There's a
Yes.
ton of talent at the safety position in this draft.
He did cause the interception early in the game, but he also let up a touchdown early in the first half as well. By the way, shout out to Dotson, linebacker we picked up from Seattle. He is an absolute stud. Hopefully we do re-sign him. But I think Holland ended up with 4 solo tackles, 6 total in the game. Even so, I'm so disappointed. I'm not mad at like Holland. It's just to pull that cliche. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
You just mommed him. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Am I wrong though?
The stats lie when it comes to our safeties. They are way worse than the stats that they put up. So if ever I watch a show where their entire defense of a player or their entire pitch for a player having a good season is all statistics, I don't watch that show anymore because they lie so much. If you're not going and watching those games, then I don't care what you have to say.
I mean, our top 2 producers on defense from a tackle standpoint were both of our safeties. That's a problem. I'm sorry. Like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go next. Tyler Huntley was my jockstrap today, guys. This was an absolutely atrocious game by him. He had 4 fumbles, 2 interceptions. Thankfully, only lost 1 of those fumbles, and just looked all around awful in this one. I feel like we were lied to last week. We had a bad quarterback who played good against an even worse defense. And now this week we had a bad quarterback who went against a better than him defense. And it really showed. Consistently throwing the ball off his back foot, consistently throwing the ball away as he's being tackled, which led to one of those interceptions. Missing guys. He had Janu on like just a simple out route in the beginning of the game, throws it out of bounds. Like he had another one for a touchdown, throws it out of bounds. Like I don't like. I would have rather had Trey Lance out there at this point, which is crazy because you know how I feel about Trey Lance.
Like, only thing you could have said that was worse was, hey, I would rather have Skylar Thompson out there, which
I definitely wouldn't have that. But I mean, Trey Lance was out there slinging it today, so I'm just saying.
I mean, I will be honest with you. I didn't have my glasses on for like a quarter of the game, and I thought I saw Skylar Thompson, but it ended up being.
He was out there, yeah. In spirit, he was out there. He was playing as Tyler Huntley. Bad day. 5.5 yards per attempt. Awful. 227 yards, which is okay. His completion percentage was okay, but just all around, he had a really bad day. And I really hope we find a backup quarterback next year. Oh, God. Yeah. That's all I have to say about Tyler Huntley. Not the ending he probably wanted as somebody fighting for a job. He didn't have a job before the Dolphins, before Tua went down this year. And this game was really kind of a showcase for him to get a job next year. And that did not go very well for him.
No, and that was interesting. That's an interesting take because there have been some, albeit some loose reporting, I'll say it that way, that the team has already been in talks with Huntley to bring him back next year. And I don't know if he's a practice squad player. Him and Skylar are practice squad quarterbacks. They are not. I don't care. You can come and tell. And I was wrong. I am the first to admit when I screw up. You can go back and watch the show. Right after we signed Huntley, I was all excited. I was like, "Oh, we got a big fast guy, former Pro Bowler. Put him in this offense.
Former Pro Bowler,
right? He's got legs. I mean, he was good when he was in that year. Hey, he won he was in the Pro Bowl, right, for a reason. Yeah, it was a popularity contest, so he was good. But that was clearly a 1-year mirage, and I was wrong on 2 players of this season, right?
There's just
Jillian Hill.
And there's just so many free agent backups this year. I mean, you're talking Zach Wilson is free, 25 years old, looks pretty good. He's been with Sean Payton for a year, so he's going to be better. I mean, Brissett is out there, Heineke's out there, Mariota's a free agent. Like the list goes on and on. Like all the backup quarterbacks pretty much that signed last year only signed 1-year deals, so they're becoming free agents again. You can sign anybody, actually sign somebody this time.
And what have we said?
Here's the thing, though. Here's the problem with that. And I want to make this abundantly clear. I think the McDaniel conversation is a long and nuanced conversation, but we didn't go after any of those guys because McDaniel was so overconfident about, hey, Skylar's been in the system.
He's been in my system for 3 years. Yeah, we know. Yeah,
we've talked about it till we turn blue. And Taylor, I know you weren't here for those conversations, but and that is 100% dead on, 100%. That's why Chris Grier is likely losing his job, because you don't stand up against your coach when you should. I love a GM that's a player's or a coach's GM. I love it. But you are the talent evaluator. You tell him who the talent is and let him pick. You should have went to him and said, hey, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, and I'm just picking 3 names out of a hat. Let's say Carson Wentz are all free agents. Which one of those 3 do you like best? They're all better than the backup we have on our roster right now, right? It shouldn't be, hey, coach, what do you want to do about the backup? You okay with Skylar? Is that good? Like, that's awful.
Yeah. You can let a coach feel like he selected a player, even though you gave him an option options that you were comfortable with, regardless of who he chose.
In your job every day, Josh, I know what you do for a living, and you're as a product owner, that's your job. It's, hey, Dev, here's 3 options I think you should look at. Pick one. It's your choice, bud.
It's not. Right? Spoiler alert to any devs that are watching this: it's never your choice.
Not your choice. That's why you get paid to be the product owner. All right, moving on. Josh, we need your jockstrap. We know it's not Poyer.
No, and this is what this would have been 7 weeks in a row that it would have been Poyer. I think was my running quota.
I'm happy to keep him in the top.
Yes, and that's why I asked if you would pre-show. So thank you.
No problem.
But I thought, and this is bad, fellas. I mean, this is not a good sign, right? But when you've outperformed Poyer to be on my crap list, you kind of you shit the bed. Pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen. Mike McDaniel, buddy, you're my jockstrap. I know you don't watch the show, but if you do, sit back because it's not going to be a fun little conversation here. And again, fellas, I will keep this short for the fans. I know these shows, we tend to keep them in the 45 to 50-minute range. And we plan on doing multiple off-season shows. I mean, we're doing a show a week. Spoiler alert, through the draft. After the draft, we're still doing content through the off season, so please tune in. And we will be getting to front office changes, potential head coaches, what happens to Mike McDaniel, what's going on with the quarterback situation. We are going to be doing positional room breakdowns and so on and so forth. But for this conversation, Mike McDaniel, buddy, you are the main reason that we lost this game. You are the main reason that we have a sub 500 record. You are the main reason. End of story, point blank. The buck stops with you. There needs to be accountability. Your shtick was very cute in the beginning. It was very engaging. It was a breath of fresh air. I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Shame on me. Because what you've shown this year is that you are not ready to be a head coach. I'm not saying you're not going to be a very good head coach. You have all of the tools and all of the knowledge to be a very successful head coach. But it's time to grow up, Peter Pan. It's time to realize that you need to adapt. You need to structure your plays. You need to not be stubborn. It's not always about who I'm buddy with. You have to hold your players accountable. You have to hold yourself accountable. You have to hold your positional coaches accountable. You have to hold your GM accountable. Your bosses accountable. You are where everything stops. You did not do your team any justice in this game. You did not do your team any justice this season. And it showed, and it's shameful. It's criminal. And I could point to a million things, right? But back to back, I think it was 3 plays in a row, screenplays. They all went negative yards. Challenges. Why are you suck at deciding when you're going to throw a challenge flag? I think he's won 4 in his 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. You go for it on 4th and whatever, with stupid calls, with fades to Tyreek Hill, who's being covered by their best wide receiver and their linebacker underneath. But yet you're still going to throw a fade to the smallest player on your team. The list goes on. Some serious. I hope Stephen Ross is. I mean, we all know that Stephen Ross, and I'm a huge fan of him as an owner. I know there are a ton of Dolphins fans that despise him, which I don't quite understand. And that's another conversation that I will happily get into with any of the fans. Feel free to comment, right? Feel free to chime in the chat live or on the video on YouTube later. And I will and we can happily get into a respectful discussion about it. But, Stephen Ross is not the problem. Who he hired is the problem. So maybe he is the problem. I don't know. But, Mike McDaniel, long and short of it is he failed this team at every level that he could fail this team. And he not only did it in this game, but he did it in the season. Yes, we started 2-6, and hey, we turned the ship around and we were fighting for a playoff, and I get all of the fun stuff. Hey, he won. We got us to the playoffs 2 years in a row. I mean, we kind of fell ass backwards into it last year, but whatever. Those are all good things. And that's why I believe that Mike McDaniel can be a very successful head coach in this league. But I've said it on the show, and I've said it to all of you separately and together on group chats, and I've said it to other people that I'm friends with. Mike McDaniel is a second-team successful head coach. He takes what he learned from this team, and he goes somewhere else. Maybe he's a coordinator for a year or two, and then he gets another opportunity. He grows. He matures with his from a head coaching standpoint, and he stops all the cute stuff.
And listen, you actually kind of reminded me that this was like Stephen Ross's attempt to go outside the box and find a coach, right? It's not often you see a guy who's a running game coordinator get a head coaching position without ever being an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator or any sort of the big 3 coordinator roles. And even largely special teams coordinators we don't see get head coaching jobs a lot anymore. I mean, the obviously the most famous one is John Harbaugh. Him going outside of the box. And I think that's why we all bought in, Josh. I don't think we're fools for buying in. I think we wanted to see something different. Mm-hmm. We got something different. It worked well for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Now you're seeing the cracks of never being a coordinator. You're seeing the cracks of never having to adjust to that adversity from the head honcho level. And he failed miserably at it. Should he get one more year to try to figure it out? I don't know. Like this is immediate reactions. That's why we do immediate reactions. Right now, I feel like hell no.
Right.
But in a few weeks, when we start to see how the rest of the NFL plays out, maybe I'll feel differently.
Yeah, and plus the thing is with McDaniel is yet again, if you keep him around another year, then you ask about the GM position. You ask who's going to be there. How is that dynamic going to be? Because the stuff you're talking about with Greer, that is kind of how Greer operates as a GM. He did it with Flores as well. Where it's like, oh, what do you need? All right, I got you. It's not like, hey, I had the vision, you'll follow it, which is usually what we do see with GM and coaches. And you try to pair that up, of course, but it's usually the GM is the one constructing this roster. And with McDaniel, you end up keeping him. At that point, you keep Tua, go down that road again. And I'm sure we'll get into all that in future episodes. But yeah, you guys said it best. Like, there's only so many ways you could complain about running halfback tosses over and over because you don't have the guards to actually run the ball inside.
Yeah. So that's it for today's show. I mean, unfortunately, a very sad ending to the Dolphins season. We lose to our rival Jets in terrible fashion in New York or New Jersey, no less. And we finish 8-9, under 500, which is a terrible, terrible taste in my mouth and you guys' mouths and all Dolphins fans' mouths. But we have a long off season to prepare for. We'll be back on Wednesday to talk more Dolphins football, talk about what the offseason looks like, talk about what the show looks like going into the offseason. But for, we're going to have content all year round. So we're going to start preparing now to do season and review content. Then we'll jump into draft content. And then during the summer, we'll probably do like preview content. It'll be less common, like it'll be happening less often, but you will still get every single week at least one video throughout the offseason. And then we'll be back for another season of Miami Dolphins football. Guys, I can't believe we're doing it again. So for Josh, a.k.a. Aqua Ace, and Taylor, great job again, sir. I'm Anthony Pinzone. This has been the Fins Forecast reaction to the Dolphins losing to the Jets in Week 18, 32-20. Can't wait to see you guys this offseason and see that glimmer of hope return to all of our faces.
Yeah, and real quick, Matt, I know I think this is a question, so if you're new to the show, we have been getting quite a lot of new folks. Wednesdays, usually 7 o'clock is when we go live. If that changes, we will post it on social and we'll mention it on whatever show.
Yeah,
but
during the summer, it will be different too. During the summer, it'll be pre-recorded content that gets launched on a schedule, not live. But that's just because there's not a lot going on in the summer.
Yeah, but leading through the draft, we will be live Wednesdays 7, and if it changes, we'll let everyone know.
Yeah, and we plan. We haven't really talked about it, but Josh, you and I have talked about draft stuff, and I am a draft psycho, so I am ready to get into some.
Me too.
What prospects fit into this Dolphins team? So I can't wait to get into that stuff.
Yep.
I'll be leaning on these two for that, but I can't wait because I love the draft myself. All right, boys. It was fun talking to you guys again, as usual. We'll see everybody else Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, fins up. Try to sleep this one off. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Fins up, baby.